get a punch! And you get a punch! And you get a punch! There's another one down!
You know, I thought that they've learned their lesson from the 2014 special, but once again, Bubbles is the one to utilize ice powers, while Blossom has to suffice for the fireball. How in the freaking world of Powerpuff could they ever screw that up? Yes, seriously. A brand new, legitimate Powerpuff Girls game. It's Defenders of Townsville. This was just recently released as of this recording, being developed by Radiant Games and published through Cartoon Network Games. Now, I'll be honest with you. The 2014 special was rather disappointing, and as such, I've pretty much lost hope for the future of the entire series. But nonetheless, I just had to give it another chance, and when I found out about this game, I was really excited into playing it. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and dive right into the review. Before you start a new game, you have the option to play as the classic style or the modern style PPGs. They don't affect us much on gameplay aside from the visuals. I'll be playing as the classic style throughout the review because that's who I am, since I'm not quite keen on the modern looks, but it's pretty cool that it has options and I like options. The story of this game is that in the city of Townsville, everything is all well and peaceful. But of course it's once again under attack by our most famous villain, Mojo Jojo. And it's quite obvious that he's gonna get beaten to a pulp by the Powerpuff Girls themselves. Yeah, come on Mojo, is that the bet? Uh-oh. And thus, the purple flash causes all knowledge of the girls' powers to be erased from the memory. Kinda reminds me of the MIB Neuralizer, now that I think about it. You will not remember how to use your superpowers, you will not remember how you even defeat me and foil my ingenious plans. You will, cry and sore and suffer for the rest of your lives. Which will be in the next 15 minutes, you also get to the crying and suffering. Oh, and I advise you to lay off the sweets. They're bad for your teeth. Recommend you put some broccoli in your diet. And now, it is up to the Powerpuff Girls to regain their lost memory and stop Mojo before he destroys all of Townsville. So with that being said, let's talk gameplay. It's pretty much reminiscent of Metroid and Castlevania, or to put it another way, Metroidvania. The goal here is to navigate throughout every room and find your way to the final stretch. Along the way, you'll encounter robots left by Mojo himself to ensure that your memory is well forgotten, and that you'll never find a way to defeat Mojo before he destroys the entire city. Or in other words, they simply want you dead. Now while it is optional into taking out every enemy in each room, it actually counts towards 100% completion if you're aiming for that. Though occasionally you'll run into rooms where you are essentially required to take out every robot in the area before you can proceed to the next room. Though in order to be well suited for combat, you'll come across upgrades in which you can use to your advantage. You'll obviously start off with nothing at first, so the first 3 upgrades you'll come across are essential. These range from being able to punch again, to flight, to standard ranged energy attacks, to each and every Powerpuff Girl's special powers. Granted, you only start off with Buttercup at first, and have to rescue all 2 girls in order to complete the collection. But once you do, then you're pretty much set for anything that gets in your way. Well, almost. At least until you find more further upgrades. There are also power-ups which are used to enhance your abilities, referred to as boosters. Basically what they do, as the name suggests, is to boost any of your stats, ranging from flight speed, to endurance, to strength. Granted, you're only allowed to equip 1 booster at a time, though it can be upgraded in order to hold up to 3 of them. Speaking of which, you've also got modules. These permanently increase your stats, which are your maximum health, energy, and amount of boosters that you can equip, as previously mentioned. These are essential for your survival because you'll be running into some tougher robots to take on as you progress throughout the game. Not to mention that the bosses will give you a hard time if you're not prepared. Now, in order to get around the areas and ensure that you don't get lost, you also have an auto-map, which will also pause the game once you access it, though an upgrade is required in order to use it. It basically indicates your current location, recently discovered rooms, etc. Also, whenever there is an exclamation point over an area, that means either you didn't clear all the enemies, or you haven't picked up a special item yet, such as an upgrade. There is also a special upgrade that you can use, which will reveal undiscovered areas for you, but that comes way later in the game. Come to think of it, it actually kinda reminds me of the auto map from Doom. Though at some particular points, it can get perplexing as to whether or not you've cleared all the enemies in each room, and the only way to find out if you did is if the indicator at the top left clearly says enemies cleared, as you visit each and every one of these rooms. Yeah, you're gonna be in for a convoluted ride if you're aiming for 100% and are not paying much attention to obliterating every enemy. Also, you can switch between girls, provided that you have rescued them. Usually I would stick to my most favorite of them all throughout the game, though in some cases I sometimes give the other two a chance. However, there are particular obstacles that you'll come across that'll require a particular special ability that is unique for each girl. For instance, if there is a switch that you need to destroy that is completely out of reach, then you'll definitely need Buttercup's Shockwave in order to do so. So while you can stick with your favorites, you'll be switching between girls as you come across a particular obstacle. Once you've beaten the main game, you'll be able to unlock a new Game Plus mode, referred to as Mojo's Key Quest. Essentially it's like the main game, but with remixed rooms, tougher enemies, and all three girls mostly powered up. One more thing to discuss before we wrap this up, and that is the controls. I don't know about you, but it feels kinda weird that the player doesn't turn in the opposite direction right away as you press that particular direction key, or move the joystick to that particular direction, like what most games do. Also, in order to dash at a high rate of speed, especially when performing a dash bash, not only do you hold down the dash button, but you have to be in the particular direction you want to face. If you're going to try dashing backwards, and especially any other direction besides doing tidbits up and down, it's not going to work very well. Also, as far as performing punches, you don't necessarily punch in the direction you're facing, you actually have one button to punch left, and another to punch right. I don't know about you, but that's not the usual standard for an action-adventure game like this. But at the same time, it actually serves to be pretty useful in the most intensive battles, provided that you can get used to it, which doesn't take that much time to do so. Granted, there are going to be some cases where you'll probably get the two punch buttons mixed up. And that's Defenders of Townsville. Is it worth the purchase? Well, the suggested retail price on Steam is $8, so for a game of this quality, it's well worth the money. And to be honest, this actually tops the previous home port PPG games that were released back then, including Relish Rampage. Granted, it is short considering it took me around 4 hours to complete both the main story and the new Game Plus, but nonetheless it has its charm. It is definitely something to go back to once in a while, whenever I had enough of PPGs and Mugen or UT99 or whatever at the moment. And I seriously hope for more of this before too long. And it actually has pretty low system requirements, so if you have a low to mid-end Windows XP machine, you should be able to run this just fine. So if you're an avid PPG fan, and are looking for some adequate gameplay, especially out of Metroid and Castlevania, then Defenders of Townsville is definitely worth it. If you enjoyed this video and want some more Powerpuff stuff for your daily routine, then why not check out one of my previous reviews, Relish Rampage. And you can also check out my video on the PPGs and Unreal Tournament because it's awesome. And if you'd like, you can subscribe for more of my further content. Also, you can check me out on Twitter and DeviantArt, and you can check out my streams on Twitch. Also, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me. And as always, once again, a game has been reviewed. Thanks to me, and you for watching. By the way, here's a screenshot that I took from the game. You will never guess how many robots I've destroyed. Yep, that many robots.